Hey, awesomes. All right, here we are going to talk about, come on, yeah, cover letters. If I can get this thing to come down. There we go. All right, so we talked about resumes. We talked about controlling the document, right? We looked at this in the last video. One thing I don't recall if I pointed out, I just want to make sure that I do, that in each one of your tables, right, cells, more specifically they're called, you can control here whether it's centered, right, whether it's justified to the right or to the left, right, and then the one for in the middle, right, it's centered, right, and you can obviously play around with these to see what works best. I just felt, the one on the left is left justified, the one in the middle, center justified, right, the one on the right, right justified, right, and you can use these tabs up here, right, if you're on Google Doc, similarly with Microsoft Word. Depending on the online or whatever, those are pretty standard features, right? And then obviously you can, within each one of these cells, as you are putting together your document, you can use the bullet point feature, just keeping it nice and straight and simple. Those are generally the easiest to work with and to use, and they're also read very nicely and very easily by online. When you upload your resume online, there are those expectations that you're using bullet points or have used tabs. It helps you keep those consistent for your, especially so you can columnize everything. All right, so we did that. So now we're looking at cover letter samples, and so I do want to. So the cover letter should include the following parts: header. All right, header. Think about the letter formatting that we did for the correspondence portfolio, okay, where you have the from address, the date, the to address, right, dear so-and-so, right, and then the letter part, okay. Not all of these in these samples here are going to use that, what I pointed out in that, I think it was week 2, or maybe the tail end, or I guess kind of week 1-ish. We're using block format. Block format's the easiest. So then when you upload, especially if you use Indeed or you use LinkedIn to apply for a position, and for that matter, in many of the others as well, you'll have a chance to copy and paste in the cover letter for that specific job as you attach your documents. And with block format, you don't have anything tab spaces, you don't have anything like that. It'll just copy and paste in. It's going to left justify pretty much everything anyway. And if you've already got it left justified, you don't have to worry about things not coming out correctly. So stick to the block format, even though you may see some of these examples and some of these samples not use it. I believe the accountant is, the accountant one is the block format, right? From, date, to whom, the greeting, right? A professional greeting. Now, this is italicized not because that's how you would do it, but because it's denoting from the type of copy here. Here's what we're saying, right? This is what leads to a good accountant cover letter, right? And so the stuff that's copy and pasted in, so that there's no confusion, it's in italicized to say, here is the sample, right? So make sure that your cover letters, okay, are not italicized. Okay, just use standard font. Recommend a clean, easy to read font, right? Like this one here. This is a sans serif font. Doesn't always have to be Times New Roman, right? Arial. There's also one Cambria, some of those standard fonts that even come standard on Microsoft Word. I believe that the default font Google Docs is Arial 11 point. I might advise raising that to 12 for your cover letter, but just make sure that it's easy to read, right? Clear. Someone doesn't have to squint, right? You don't want a 6-point font, right? You want to, here again, same with your resume, you want this to be one page, okay? And this is I don't want to say this is very, very straightforward, but it is, okay? So on the cover letter page here, it says your cover letter should include the following parts, right? So you have a header, you have a salutation, right? Dear Mr. So and Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so, or whomever it is, right? Then you have the introduction, right? So the introductory paragraph should be fairly standard. You're literally introducing yourself. Maybe you give just a little bit of background information, the thing that you want to avoid, okay? They have your resume. Okay. You don't need to recount everything from your resume. Okay. Um, so here he or she says, right, as a recent graduate of Stone University, right, I was able to apply, did these kind of things, always loved numbers, I'm enthusiastic, financial professionals at Brick Book Accounting. Okay, it's kind of personalized. I kind of like that part of it. You don't necessarily have to have all that. Try to think about ways that you can distinguish yourself. They know that you're applying for the job, right? Right. They know that they're assuming that you already love numbers and those kind of things. Okay. They know that you're a graduate. I like this use of as a recent graduate. I'm ready. I da 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 da. I might prefer to go right into something very, very specific that they did perhaps at Stone University that's more specific, but I get the introduction part. And then we move into now we have the paragraphs, right? So let's go back to the 7 header, citation, introduction, and it says body paragraph, and I just would like to put an S. You have 2 in between body. You have an introduction paragraph, 2 body paragraphs, and then a closing paragraph. So you have a total of 4 paragraphs. I believe my practical experience, along with my proficiency in programs like QuickBooks and Zero, my computer skills, BrickBook, documentation actually by 5%. Okay, there's very, very specific things here, right? So what my encouragement here is in that very first paragraph, you need to address very, very specifically how your experience addresses and responds to the job ad, right? So my assumption is right here that this particular job ad to which this individual is applying, they're looking for someone with experience, or maybe they even specified proficiency in QuickBooks, right, or Zero. And then there must be something about that they can do where they can are able to track and increase their documentation accuracy by 5%. All right, that's something very, very, very specific, right? I have experience in these particular programs, right? I can also do this other thing, and as a result, I have this dynamic accuracy by 5% or whatever it is, okay? Something very, very specific. And in the second paragraph, we have another example. So you have each one of these paragraphs sandwiched in between the introduction and your closing paragraph are 2 paragraphs that need to be very, 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 very specific, speaking to something directly related to, right, or in response to something that you are getting an indication from that job ad that is perhaps most important and that you can speak to, right? Now, if you're not expected to perhaps speak to every single thing that they're looking for, but pick 2 things that you can demonstrate by by a minimum of at least 2 specific examples of what you've done, even though, right, this particular person, maybe, okay, they're just graduating, their proficiency in these programs, right? It would be nice to know how or why, right? If that's all you have is experience from using those things, that's totally fine, right? And then notice this, one thing that captured my attention about Brick Book Accounting is its emphasis on helping small businesses, right? That may or may not have been in the job ad, right? You hear what I'm saying? That could be extra research, right? So when you're forwardly thinking, okay, you're trying to think about the future, about putting this job ad together for something that you would apply to post-graduation. So for some of you, that's a year from now. Some of you, it's a year and a half, 2 years, whatever it is, right? Even thinking about just the graduation process, how much experience you may or may not have, right? So we can lean on other things to set ourselves out, right? To help us stand out amongst the different ones, right? So this particular applicant did some digging, found some research. How can I make another connection from what experience I do have? I've done volunteer experience, right? But for small firms who need assistance with tax documents, I've done this stuff, right? So they able to make that connection. The big thing about a cover letter, especially in these 2 middle paragraphs, is to make that connection from your experience, regardless of what it is, right? Or your interests in that particular field to the job ad, right? Anything that you've done. I love how this one pulls in from some volunteer experience, right? To make that connection, right? Brick Book Accounting might not just only be, right, a small business accounting firm, but they do have something that he or she was able to connect to. So anyway, and then as an employee, I would dedicate myself to serving clients and making sure that everyone can reach their financial goals, right? That may or may not be something that was important to them, right? They may have a mission statement or a vision statement. These are great opportunities to draw from things that the company is saying that demonstrate that you are actually interested. You didn't just say, hey, I'm great with numbers, right? I know how to work accounting software. This goes far above and beyond, right? So make sure that even some of these phrases that maybe as an employee, I would dedicate myself to serving my clients, to serving clients, making sure everyone can reach their financial goals. That very well could be a direct quote almost, right, to their mission vision statement. Lets them know that you're taking it seriously. And then your closing paragraph, I like this one here because it kind of gives this, here's what I'm in the process of doing, right? I know if you're just fresh out of college, getting into your perhaps first quote unquote real opportunity to pursue this, it's good to let them, hey, this also says, hey, I'm currently working on becoming a CPA, right? So it's lets them know that, oh, you're not just graduating and done, right? You got things going, right? You have a goal, you have a plan, you have somewhere that you're wanting to go, those kinds of things. And those are good things to highlight as well. Okay. Those are the nuts and bolts of the cover letter. So follow those things. Sorry, this went really, really long, but it's really, really important. It will make it so much easier for you to write. Do research on the company. I can't emphasize that enough too, right? If you may not feel like you have all the experience, what's something else that's in that you really pay attention to that job at, go onto their website, find out as much as you can about that company, and make that connection in your cover letter. All right, guys, hope that was helpful and beneficial. Sorry for so long-winded there. All right, hope you have a great week. I'll be in touch. I'll be looking at you.